The issue of Palestinian prisoners and its impact on all our lives is the topic of discussion today. And I will pass the microphone to my partner, Riman Barakat, to present the first panelist.
So thank you very much. Let me introduce our distinguished speaker, Talia Sasson, who heads her own law firm representing organizations in administrative and civil cases in court. She's also a board member of the New Israel Fund and a co-chair of the International Council of the New Israel Fund. She's a board member in the Council for Peace and Security, and also a member of the Geneva Initiative Steering Committee, a counselor for some other NGOs in Israel. In 2009, she ran in the Knesset as representative of the new movement Meretz. From 2004 to 2010, she taught a course on defenses through law and democracy in Israel in the Faculty of Law at Tel Aviv University. She was requested by former Prime Minister Ariel Sharon to be as a special legal advisor for the government, and she's author of the Sasson report on illegal outposts in the West Bank and law enforcement on Israeli and Palestinian territories. Her bio is extensive, and definitely she has done a lot. So also from 1979 to February 2004, she also worked in the State Attorney's Office. She also headed, between the 80s and the early 90s, the Civil Department in Jerusalem District. And she headed from 1996 to 2004 the Special Tasks Division of the State Attorney's Office. And in that role, she represented the government of Israel in the Supreme Court for 13 years in civil, criminal, constitutional, administrative cases, and was also involved with different security and military issues. So, Talia, the floor is yours to discuss the issue of Palestinian prisoners.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me here. I didn't prepare my presentation in English, so I apologize for that in advance. Maybe I'll have some few mistakes, so please forgive me in Hebrew and backup. The issue of prisoners, it has few perspectives, and not only one. It's not only a matter of humanitarian issue, it's an issue of policy matter. In my opinion, it's connected very much to a policy matter. It's something that's connected to the Israeli society, the Palestinian society, and I've tried, and some legal aspects, of course. So I've tried to give some opening remarks. This is not a full presentation. This is some opening remarks about this issue from all those perspectives that I just mentioned now. From the legal point of view, the prisoners, there are two kinds of prisoners in Israel's jails. One kind is those people that did an offense, that were convicted in court and sent for punishment for such and such years to spend in jail, in Israeli jail. They have done the offense, let's say, because they were convicted, and they are punished for something they have done. There's another kind of prisoners that they're administrative prisoners, I assume we call it in English. Those people haven't done, or we didn't prove in court that they have done some offense. They are in prison because the state of Israel wants to prevent them of doing some offense in the future. This kind of prisoners, it's something that on the face of it there is something unjust. Because usually, the usual way we punish people is for something they did. Those people haven't done yet nothing. But, you know, justice have a lot of faces. And to prevent an offense that would harm civilians, people that didn't do anything, and you know in a way, and you have some evidence, and a good evidence, that those people are going to do this offense, and usually it's a kind of offense of violence, the taking lives of another people, because the offense that we assume is going to come needs to be a very severe one. It's not someone that is going to steal something from a house. So there's another way of justification to prevent those people to do this offense in the future. Still, it's difficult. Still, it's difficult to put it in the routine procedures of criminal law. And the way you could prove what they're going to do, in many ways, the evidence, you can't expose them to those evidence. And many times you're doing it unilaterally in front of a judge and not in front of the accused. And this is very difficult too, from the point of view of a fair trial and the basic human rights of every person to defend himself. Now, when the court put them in a jail, it is for a specific period of time, and after a few months you have to bring them back to a judge and so on. But still, from a point of view of justice, this is something tough. This is difficult. So these are the two kinds of prisoners in Israel. Both of them, usually, when we are talking about Palestinians, the offenses are on the ground of a national motive, usually. I could talk about the military courts in the West Bank. I don't, if you want, maybe you'll ask me a question after that, because I have a lot of things to say about that. I just gave a full presentation about it in the Bar Association of Israel. But I think this is not, I don't want to be focused on that right now. Another perspective that we need to talk about prisoners when we are talking about Palestinian prisoners is from a policy point of view. The Palestinians in the West Bank, they see those criminals that Israel put in jail and prove that they've done a horrible thing and took lives of innocent civilians. The Palestinians look at them as heroes. They're heroes. They did it, in their opinion, to release the Palestinian people from the occupation. In their perspective, those people need to be released, and they're heroes. They need that to be a very important people in their society. In the Israeli eyes, those people are entirely on the contrary. They're cruel, they're criminals, they've done a horrible thing, which they did. Sometimes they took the lives of a lot of Israeli civilians, innocent civilians. You know that in buses, everywhere. I don't need to tell you what they did, because I assume everybody knows that. So from a moral point of view, of killing people, this is a horrible thing they did. Now in the Israelis' eyes, the eyes of the Israeli society is that this is not only immoral to do that, but to do that against innocent civilians, women, children, and others in civilian places all over Israel. It's a horrible thing to do. So those two societies look at the same thing, the same act that a person did. In one eye, they are heroes. In one eye, they are horrible criminals. The question that we need to ask ourselves is, how could we solve or try to solve the problem of those Palestinians that are put in Israeli jails for decades? When in the Palestinians' eyes, this is something that, because the way they see them, this is something with a high priority to take them out of prison. For that issue, they were ready to capture an Israeli soldier, to take him by Hamas to Gaza, and to put him under the ground for 5 years. So how this problem could be solved? And in my perspective, in my opinion, this problem is a policy matter. Only by policy matters this problem could be solved, or try to start to be solved. And I think we need to try to think about the situation that there are prisoners in jail. Maybe we could turn this point and to turn it to some positive point. What to do? For a minute, I want to leave this issue and to turn to policy matters between Israel and the Palestinians. Those two peoples, whether they agree with me or not, in my opinion, they need, every one of them, desperately, the separation, the two-state solution, the state that every people will have its own state on its own sovereign land, and a separate land, one for Palestinians, one for Israelis. Now, everybody is talking, or a part of us talking, about negotiations for peace agreement. In my opinion, this is not the reality. If, Tzipi Livni, on behalf of this government, new government that is going to be built, would like to open negotiations with the Palestinians, just ask Abu Mazen to the table, say, sit down please Abu Mazen, let's have negotiations about peace agreement between the two people. This is not real. This is a show. This is not something that really could deliver the good. The first thing that is needed to be done is to persuade the two peoples that we mean business, that we have goodwill, that we want to achieve peace, we the Israelis and they the Palestinians. And the way to do that is first of all the Israelis, because they are the strong side from the two sides that we have here. They are the stronger side. So they need to take some confident steps. Confidence building measures. And one of the confidence building measures that could be taken is the prisoners one. And why in the prisoners? Because if we, the Israelis, want to persuade the Palestinian society, not the leaders, the society, the leaders need the society support in the negotiations and the agreement with the Israelis, to persuade them that we are ready for a peace treaty, we are really ready for that, then we have to persuade them that we have a goodwill. How to prove your goodwill? And goodwill in an emotional way. We need to take some step that would persuade in an emotional way the other side. Not only by money, not only by, I don't know, whatever steps, but when we release some of the prisoners, fathers, brothers, children, back to their houses, for them, it's you change the world for those families. And for the whole society, you proved your goodwill for that. But when I'm saying that, you have to understand that this is very difficult for every Israeli government, whatever government it is, not only the right wing. It is very difficult because of a few reasons. One is those people in the Israeli side, they are horrible criminals. They deserve a punishment. Not only by the eyes of those families that were harmed by those people. Those families we can't persuade at all. But many Israelis, the Israeli society think like that. So to take those people and to release them, this is a huge step by the Israeli society to agree to. So this step that would be taken by a government might be unpopular. Look at Bibi Netanyahu. When he was demanded to release those prisoners for releasing Gilad Shalit back to Israel. 5 years, not only him, Olmert before him, and Bibi Netanyahu after Olmert. It took 5 years to release him, to get the consent of Israeli Prime Minister to release those prisoners for the releasing of Gilad Shalit. And it was very difficult for him to do. And in many years, it wasn't a popular thing to do. So this is on one hand. Another reason is that many Israelis are saying, this is dangerous. Those people proved themselves. They're horrible people. They did a horrible things. Why? How could you persuade us to be sure that they won't repeat their horrible activity again? They might kill people. Why should people will die? Because you want to show the Palestinians that you really mean business. Why do we have to pay that in advance? We don't want. So this is another issue. This is difficult. But I believe that if this step will be taken by an Israeli government without the pressure from its own goodwill, from its own initiative, to show the Palestinians how much we want to show our goodwill for starting negotiations, it could not only persuade the Palestinian society, but strengthen the forces in the Palestinian society in the eyes of the Palestinians as Abu Mazen. Because today, when they're talking about this issue, this is a horrible issue in their society. They're saying, look at the Hamas. The Hamas took Gilad Shalit, and he got the merchandise. He got those prisoners back. So Israel, that horrible Israel, understand only force. So we need to do that again and again. And if we will take the initiative of releasing those prisoners by our own will for peace negotiations, not just, in the air, but for a specific purpose, maybe we could strengthen Abu Mazen on the one hand, and strengthen the Palestinian support of Abu Mazen on the other hand. And when those prisoners will be released in this environment of trying to start negotiation for peace to end the occupation, maybe those people that were convicted in the past, maybe they would think that now it's not needed anymore. It's not good for them. On the contrary. So maybe if we will do that, just remember what did Sadat. If you remember when Sadat, well, maybe you were too young, but I'm not. I remember Sadat coming to Israel, and I remember that the chief of the army didn't believe Motabu. He didn't believe that he has peace mission. He thought this is some kind of game with a bomb behind his back. Right? Well, many Israelis didn't believe that. And when he came to the Knesset and said, I want to make peace with you. So this is something that persuaded the Israelis to give up Sinai. So I believe that if we want to start to open this issue and start to solve it, I'm not saying that we can achieve the end of it in 2 days. This is not something that I'm saying. But just to start to do that, we could use this issue to connect this with policy matters and try to do something that's initial for both sides. Peace agreement. Thank you.
Thank you, Talia.